Ayan na. May pakulo na naman yung iba dyan. Si Governor Salceda, meron na siyang talagang concerted push for Rosa, no? So, Leni Robredo at Sara without H. Duterte, no? So, yan ang pinupush ng mga ibang politikos dyan na neither here nor there. Of course, let's not forget, this is the same person who endorsed, I lost count of ilang tao bang in-endorse na yung 2016 election. Saan siya nagsimula, saan siya natapos, parang nag-Mar, tapos nag-Grace po, tapos nag-Duterte towards the end or nung nanalo na si Duterte. Ayan, at siya rin yung nagsabi na talagang for sure tatakbo si Sara Duterte for the president. But now, of course, ang position ni Congressman and erstwhile governor and economist Joey Salceda, right? Who else pa ba? Na is dapat magsama daw ang dalawang babae. Women of Steel, hindi daw men of steel, women of steel ang dapat magsama. Si Leni Robredo, duly elected Vice President Leni Robredo, and Vice Presidential candidate and presidential daughter Sara Duterte. Kasi nga daw, para silang abogado, para silang results-oriented, palaban, feisty, and maybe for the first time, if magkaroon tayo ng all-women administration, malay nyo ba? Baka naman, things will move in the right direction, di ba? So yon. Ayan, kahit nagpa-shoutout na yung iba dyan, si Janice from Finland. Kamusta kayo dyan? Katabi lang kayo ng Russia. Pinag-usapan niya natin mag-join sa NATO soon. So yon, balikan natin itong topic na ito. Alam natin saan galing yan. Okay, let me give you a little bit of a background. Before, yung isa, which is Isko and Sara, na of course na-hurt naman si Willie Ong dyan kasi meron kampanya sa Maguindanao si Isko kung saan parang ang mga nilalagay dyan ng mga campaign materials ay isa, no? So mga pictures ni Isko at saka Sara together ay ibang klase yan. So Team Isa, ISSA movement na banners yung nilagay dyan nung si Isko ay pumunta sa Maguindanao. But before that, actually nung 2016 elections, when Robredo, duly elected Vice President Leni Robredo actually did well, she won, I think, 3 million votes or at least something like that around Mindanao. There was the so-called Dobredo movement supporting then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte, then now Mayor President, and then, of course, then Congresswoman Leni Robredo running for the Vice President. So the Dobredo movement in Mindanao really made it hard for former Senator Bongbong Marcos to do well in 2016 elections. At nakita natin, if you look at the numbers at of course, na-confirm yan ilang beses na dinala sa Supreme Court yung case na yan, talagang malakas yung performance ni Robredo, and that explains why eventually she was able to pull off the kind of razor-thin margin victories over Bongbong Marcos. So the Dobredo setup, many would say, was very, very instrumental in the strong performance of Leni, or relatively strong performance of Leni in Mindanao. And of course, alam natin medyo dark yung history ng martial law sa Mindanao more than anywhere else perhaps in the Philippines. Yung giyera nung panahon na yan, talaga dyan naging bogged down yung Philippine military, at we went from one of the most advanced and externally oriented militaries in Southeast Asia na sobrang active sa West Philippine Sea into a very internally oriented, very domestically destabilized country. So yun yung legacy ni Marcos among others doon sa Mindanao. So I think the Dobredo kind of movement had a huge kind of traction then. And not to mention, President Duterte back in the day, tingnan yung mga pictures sila, we were together with former President Pinoy, with Mar Rojas. The late mother of current President Duterte was supportive of the Corazon Aquino People Power Revolution, etc. In fact, Mayor and then President Duterte would not have been on this track to climb the hierarchies of politics kung yung mother niya was not, I think, appointed or pushed by the Aquino administration, Corazon Aquino administration, to take leadership position dyan sa Davao, no? So I think those are factors that we have to keep in mind. Although, of course, in fairness, governor naman of Davao yung tatay ni President Duterte, of course, in the past. Alam natin yan. But the connections should not be missed. So the Dobredo movement was, some would say, quite instrumental in ensuring that Leni did very well in Mindanao, or at least way better than expected and better than comparatively than Bongbong Marcos in the 2016 elections. So ang tanong ngayon is, ano naman ang gagawin dito sa election ngayon? Because I know, ito na naman kayo, di na naman kayo believe sa mga surveys, but, well, I mean, as far as objective data and reality is concerned, Leni's not doing very well in Mindanao. I think her inner circle, if you ask them, they'll admit that na meron silang problema sa Mindanao. Their numbers are extremely low, single digits, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not barely double digit, even with margin of error. While Bombo Marcos is getting 70-80% in Mindanao. And a lot of that we know is not because of Bombo Marcos or Marcos. He didn't do very well there in 2016. Hindi ganong kaganda yung legacy ng Marcos dictatorship sa Mindanao. But it's because of Sara Duterte. It's a Duterte-Sara all effect that explains a lot of huge support that Bombo Marcos enjoys in Mindanao. So what do you do about that? So one proposal, so ang mga kasama dito is Congressman Salceda, ang kasama dito is Congressman Rufus Rodriguez from Cagayan de Oro 2nd District. Mukhang kasama din dito is, so you have a number of key figures, no? Yes, so Climaco, of course, meron din si Sir Climaco dyan. So you have a number of stalwarts, local government stalwarts across the country are saying, why not? Why not go for this kind of tandem, which makes strategic sense. It also appeals to the sense that our women are very strong anyway. Why not have two of them together? In fact, I jokingly tweeted a few months ago, what if ang mangyari manalo si Sara at si Leni? Anong gagawin dyan? And of course, I saw a lot of skepticism. Now, just to give you an idea about how strong this skepticism is, of course, this is not a scientific survey, but I did a poll on Twitter. Follow naman kayo dyan sa Twitter sa akin. Alam mo kung yung iba sa akin hindi ganun ka-active sa Twitter. But Twitter is also fun. Nag-poll ako dito sa Twitter. Mga 2,000 plus lang naman sumagot. 2,300 so far. Mas marami dun sa mga joke lang. Hindi naman to scientific survey. Ang tanong ko is, what do you think about the proposed Rosa Tandem? So ang options ay, no way, maybe, no choice, At guess nyo ano nangyari. So if you look at here, ito po yung resulta, no? Grabe, no? So 85% no way. No way, highway. Right? 7% lang like maybe. And then 3% like no choice. 5%, alam nyo na. Alright. At nag-post ako na ng reference, itong article by Rappler on Women of Steel, Allies Push for the Bread Duterte 2020 Tandem for reference point, no? So yon, so it looks like, at least based on the limited slice of the universe na meron ako dito sa aking social media platforms, marami ay hindi very supportive dito. Marami ay hindi masyadong impressed dito. But let's look at the quote-unquote reasoning behind this. As I said, there was a Dubredo precedence, and then mukhang the Team Isa is not really working as well. President Duterte has still been wishy-washy, dilly-dallying on sino ba talagang gusto niya i-endorse. Ang argument ni Salceda is that, well, I mean, she's advising both sides daw on economic plans daw. And Robredo daw has a momentum now and a very high conversion rate. So sa tingin niya, if she gets the bump, the push from Sara's side, or some of the Sara supporters who are more comfortable with Leni than Bongbong Marcos, then things could really shift towards a very different dynamic as we enter the final stretch of the race, no? So kaya recently nag-launch ng isang press conference sila Salceda diyan sa Cagayan de Oro with Mayor Ben Climaco and Cagayan de Oro 2nd District Representative Rufus Rodriguez. So yan, so Zamboanga. So involved dyan ng folks from Zamboanga, from Cagayan de Oro, so a lot of Mindanao people. Of course, si Congressman Salceda is a chair of Powerful Ways and Means Committee sa ating Kongreso. At yun nga, sabi niya, etong dalawa ay obsessed with results and they're good for the country, good for the economy, good for the provinces, and good for Mindanao. So yun ang contention ni Salceda, so they make a very, very good combination. So in short, hindi sila fan of a Bongbong Marcos presidency potentially, no? Now, sabi naman ni Salceda, he was the loudest proponent for Sara Duterte to run for the presidency, which did not happen. He almost like predicted it daw, but well, he turned out very wrong on that. But he wished for the presidency to remain with Mindanao kasi. But at least ngayon, ang second logical choice daw niya is Leni Robredo. So that is why he's pushing daw for Robredo, Leni Robredo, Sara Carpio Duterte team up, so-called Rosa. Right? So nagkaroon ng press conference dyan. Ayon naman kay Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, coming from the Centrist Democratic Party, both of them have no objections daw when asked if either Roberto had reacted to the Rosa 2022 tandem. So, mukhang no violent reaction from the campaign team of both sides. There could be many reasons for that. Maybe because they're not taking it seriously at all, or natutuwa lang sila. I don't know, natatawa, natutuwa, or whatever, or let's see how things go along. You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know, the House of Marcos and the House of Duterte are not, they're rivals. You know, I mean, let's not forget those things. No, ayon naman kay Zamboanga City Mayor Ben Climaco, right? Sabi naman niya, who actually hosted Robredo and Kiko in Zamboanga recently. Sabi naman niya, Robredo and Duterte are two mothers, two lawyers, two very dedicated Filipinos. Ang sabi nila, bakit babae? Ang sabi ko naman, bakit hindi? Diba? So of course, we have this perception in the Philippines which is very much grounded in reality. Ang mga kababayanan po natin ay napakahusay, napaka-responsable, napakalakas. At why not have an all-women team? Ayon naman kay Congressman Rodriguez, Sara is of her own mind. There can be no forces behind her. She will not be influenced by others. So you're talking about a very independent-minded person. And that Sara Duterte, she's not gonna try to oust Leni if ever nanalo si Leni or something like that. That they're gonna try to work it out. So yan po ang position ng mga so-called Rosa, Team Rosa. Team Rosa. And I'm seeing based on some anecdotal evidence, again, not scientific survey, anecdotal evidence, that there are a lot of people are saying, they like Leni, but they're not very sure she'll win. But they still want a woman kind of in the mix, so their choice for the vice president is Sara Duterte. So parang, Now, I understand bakit ang dami nagsabi no way, at least dito sa non-scientific survey na meron tayo. At least hindi tayo nagpapanggap na scientific survey natin. But at least, 2,300, 400 nang sumagot dito since over the past 20 hours or so. I understand why. Because, first of all, they are a sea apart in terms of their ideological predisposition. I mean, Sara Duterte may not be on best of terms with the incumbent, etc., and the fallout perhaps explains why she didn't run for the presidency, even though she was leading in surveys. But she's still the daughter of the father, right? And she has this kind of illiberal, authoritarian streak. Yes, masipag siya. Yes, she's very consultative, far more than her father. Yes, there are differences, but at the end of the day, she represents a certain style of governance, which I think is very, very different from the more progressive, participatory, liberal kind of governance that Leni Robredo represents. So, then the second issue is the issue of accountability and justice, right? Accountability and justice. Well, we have allegations of massive human rights violations, thousands of extrajudicial killings, not to mention all of these corruption scandals in recent years, Farmali, so on and so forth. So what does that mean? That Leni will just be okay, that the daughter of the incumbent, whom she could pursue, judicially later on, are like kind of allies now, and then what later on? So there are lots of questions around that. And then, of course, there are also people are saying, hey, let's be disciplined, let's not do trapo politics. If there is a team, if it's Kiko and Leni, why not go? Anyway, pag tignan mo naman yung vice presidential race, parehas naman malayo kay Sara without H, whether this is Tito Boy Soto, right? Tama, di ba? And, no, I mean the name, not the numbers. And then, Tito Boy Soto. Tito Soto, sorry. Confused natin si Tito Boy. Tito Soto. Tama kasing Tito eh. Tapos may Tito pa sa Yugoslavia. Tito Soto, sorry. Meron tayong Senate President Tito Soto at saka Kiko. Hindi naman sila ganun kalayo. Diba? Ganun kalayo kay Ganun kalayo kay... Kasi napapaano na naman ako. I mean, you could see already parang, like my mind is working it out, but my parang, okay. Parang, okay, I see it, okay. At siguro sigurista din tong mga to. I mean, if Leni doesn't make it, at least we were with Sara. Or if ever Leni makes it, at least we were like, or, I don't know. I mean, ewan ko sa mga yan. Mga politikos yan eh. Politikos yan. But, there's a flip side to this discussion. You cannot affect change unless you first win the election. And alam natin, yung weakness talaga ni Leni dito in this race is she's not doing very well in Mindanao. She's doing way, way, way below the numbers that she was able to achieve in 2016. No? So you would have expected her to carry similar numbers, 3 million probably, that she was able to carry in 2016 into 2022. But that is not happening so far. So maybe certain moves have to be made. Maybe some difficult choices have to be made. Maybe some bridges have to be built. So yun yung mga argument na narinig natin dyan. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure I have a stance on this issue, but mamaya na tayo sa personal stance ko. But we're trying to analyze this as objectively as possible. Look at the combination of green and pink for these elections, whether it works. I don't know if it works for fashion-wise, but I don't know. Let's see if politically. Bakit ganun yung politika natin? Alam mo sa ibang bansa, either isang ticket yung President Vice President, may matinong partido, may klarong polisiya, plataforma, ideological orientation. Sa atin talaga, bakit ganun ang demokrasya natin? Tuloy wala talagang tiwalang tao sa ating demokrasya. Ang talagang issue dito is net. Hoy, Nicolas, huwag mong patulan yan. Nagkamali lang ako, sorry dyan. Tito Soto. Kasi kasama ko lang si Tito Boy the other day, kaya medyo nagka-confusion, sorry. Pag Tito Boy, kaya na inisip ko. Pasensya na, Senate President. Okay. Yan, Tito Soto, yeah. Ay, ang Pilipinas. Kamusta kayo dyan? O, tama na yan, wag nyo na ako buliin. Kasi naman yung politika natin kaya minsan parang yan tayo. Ano reaction nyo dyan? Balimbingan na ba? Para na manalo? Or, alam mo ang masakit, yung magbalimbingan ka, tas talo ka pa rin. Yan ang masakit. Ayaw magsabi ng pangalan, pero sakit po yan. Binenta mo na nga yung kaluluwa mo and all, tapos di pa rin gumana. Yan po ang masakit. At least kung natalo ka na may conviction ka sa buhay, at least naman you can say you fought a good fight. Pero kung nagtrapo effect, balimbingan, tapos talo ka pa rin. Masakit po yan. Kaya, masaklap ang ating politika. So, I don't know, pick your poison. Ano ba talagang dito? So, yun. And so far, napansin ko naman sa Leni Robredo campaign, they are keeping options open. I'm sure there are internal debates there, but it looks like they're kind of okay and then not so okay. So let's see what happens. But I didn't see categorical rejection from the Leni team about a potential endorsement from either President Duterte or a potential indirect team up with Sara Duterte for an all women of steel.